Welcome everyone to the Winning Together podcast. Today we've got the coach, the clinician, and the client breaking down emotions, opening up emotional regulation, showing the science, talking about the ways and the hows so you can do the whats and attract a life that really you're connected to, it's worth living, and it drives a sense of aliveness in your life. So this is Shay, I meditate Aslet. I've got Jared, macadamia nut Casey, and a special guest today. We've got Zakat joining us today. Welcome everybody. Jared, hello.
Hello. Aloha.
Life's a beach, baby.
It's a beach.
I love it. Did you hit your fill of vitamin shaved ice last few weeks?
I definitely took more than my share of hamburgers and shaved ice.
Brilliant. Love it. That was your job. Zakat, give us a little bit of who you are and what you bring to the discussion today.
Well, thank you for having me today. I appreciate this on the spot. We'll rock it.
On the fly.
Heck yeah. I'm 26 and I am a client here, loving it, eating up all this knowledge. So I really appreciate this chance to dive into the cold water.
Oh, that is the truth right there. In fact, cold water is really apropos for our discussion today. All right, so we're going to ask some questions about emotional regulation. We're going to defer here to the clinician. And the wisdom of our clinician Yoda here is, what is emotion? And where we want to go to is understanding how to not deny, not negate, not ignore, not put off, not put down, not exaggerate or make them what they are or aren't they what they're not. Emotions are emotions, and we need to understand what they are because that's how our body informs us what's going on. But to regulate and drive and attract and be the emotions or feel the feelings but not become the emotion, essential skills to a life worth living and being connected. So Jared, let us know what are emotions and why is this topic come up for you in the field of recovery?
When I was doing my undergrad, I had a professor that was really good at working with children, really good at understanding emotions. And he kind of called us all out and he said, hey, everyone in here needs to know one thing. All emotions are good. And my first reaction is, well, what about hate? And what about really bad things and sadness and all these other things? And he went on to elaborate. He's like, they're all good. Where you struggle at is how you handle your emotions or what you do with those, or basically how you regulate your emotions. And that really stood out for me because in my family where I was raised, there were some emotions that were good and some emotions that we didn't really share or express. And one of those was being vulnerable and showing that you could be weak.
Okay, not being okay.
Mm-hmm. So in my home, I don't think I ever saw my dad cry. I don't know if I ever saw my mom cry unless there was a lot of anger first. So for me, crying wasn't okay. And I was the youngest of 9 kids with 7 big brothers and 1 kind sister. And in that environment, if you were the crybaby, you were treated like one. Whether we meant to be that way or not, that was just kind of how we were. So as I got older, the ability to cry left me. When I was in 3rd or 4th grade, I remember even falling down and scraping my knee really hard. And one of my friends asked me, buddy, you okay? You're not even crying. I'm like, well, why would I cry? That's just an emotion. Yeah, there's pain there, but I'm not going to cry about it.
Yeah, and at that time, that was actually a badge of courage. That was really important to you. It helped you survive and helped you feel good about yourself.
And my friend, he still had the ability to do it, and I did see it as weakness because that's how I was raised.
Totally.
Fast forward to when I'm in my undergrad, and I'm thinking about my young children at home, and I'm raising them, and they're crying and coming to me, and I can't cry. I'm a rock. I barely move, right, in the emotional space. And this teacher comes in and tells me all emotions are good. And then he goes on to explain, you need to let your kids see you cry. And I was like, that is impossible.
I'm actually paying for this? What?
What, how, and when? Because if and ever I would cry, it was in a closet. It was hidden. It wasn't something that I let people see. So I took that as almost a challenge. How do I get to the point where, first of all, I don't see this as weakness. I see this as strength. And secondly, how can I cry in front of my family, my children, or just even cry in general without extreme circumstances? Extreme grief or extreme anger or whatever that was. And it did pay rewards. I got to the point where I could cry when I felt certain things around my family. And one particular night, I'll share real quickly and we'll jump into the topics. I was really struggling with the loss of one of our animals. We had this cat that I just loved and adored. I've always loved cats, especially fat ones. I like big, fat cats. They just bring me peace. I don't know why. And I lost our cat, and I was putting my 4-year-old to bed that night. I thought he was asleep. And all of a sudden, all the emotion of the day came to me, and I started bawling, just started sobbing. All these tears started coming out. And he jumps out of bed, and he runs over and gives me a huge bear hug. And just tells me, Dad, I love you. Then he goes back to bed, sleep.
Done.
I'm like, whoa.
That's how you regulate emotion.
Wasn't so bad. And it felt really good. And that moment bonded us even deeper.
So real quick before you go in the topic a little bit more. So Zakat, tell me a little bit about how emotions were experienced in your background, in your training a la family.
A la family, emotions were null and void. It was very disciplinarian. You were given the order and you followed through. At an early age, I do recall, my mom passed when I was 3, and she was all emotion. She was a teacher. I remember getting in trouble, and my dad had rage. He was ready to spank me, and I hid behind my mom. She was almost laughing at my dad. How could you be so angry at a 2-year-old, at a 3-year-old, that you want to commit violence? And once she passed, I was very scared. I watched my brother get hit. I would get hit. So you learn to toe the line, walk very straight. And then I had a stepmom come into the picture, and she was coming from a military background, so it was even more rigid. I didn't even smile. I was so void of all emotions, to the point where I would cry alone in the bathroom, only when I reached absolute breaking point. The shower was a great place because it's a hot shower. Your face is hot already. So
that was your safe space.
That was solitude, alone. No one in the house was talking to me, and I couldn't express anything with anybody.
Well, you're a smart girl, so you were able to figure out how to work the system, right? How to be fake.
Yeah.
To get through, so you don't get. So was it belt? Was it brush? Was it tree branches? Was it just hand?
Straight hand,
Okay.
Skin to skin.
It's a big deal.
It was tough. It toughened me, toughened my skin.
How has that rippled over into your adulthood and being a parent yourself?
So I actually spanked my kids because that's what I was taught. And it broke my heart every time. It was this yin and yang almost of the angel saying, what the heck are you doing? And the devil saying, keep going, they should know better. But they're young. And it was a very internal conflict. So I give all the praise to therapy so that I could get rid of the shame that was attached to that. That's what I learned, and I repeated what I was taught, but I also knew better. And I wanted to reach the point where I was comfortable expressing emotions and communicating. We don't touch the kitty litter. I've told you this every day for 2 months now, and this is kind of a breaking point. So
Keeping it real. I love that. Thank you.
That same professor that took me down this path, he talked about spanking, and he brought up, maybe that's how they did it back then, but we have more tools now, and you got to get off your default settings. Because I also would spank. Sometimes it felt like it was too hard, and I felt bad, and the internal side of me was like, why? These are the things I said I'd never do. Why would I do it now?
it hurt me so much as a kid. How could I do that to my own offspring?
Because you cuss in the language that you know. And when it's in your bones, when you get there, like you were going to talk about, it's part of your brain just shuts down and you just act or react how you were trained and how it's in you.
So how do you change your default settings? What's been working for you?
I sat with the emotion of shame. I felt so guilty. There was guilt. I spanked him. I'm guilty of that. But then I recognized my inner child when I was terrified of my dad. And I severely wanted to change. I wasn't in a safe space to do that with the partner with whom I was with. So I would sit outside, get some sun, talk to God. I have always been divinely guided, divinely protected, and divinely blessed. And I knew that I was going through chemical changes to rewire my brain, stemming from wanting to. But it was a process, and I knew it was going to be slow and painful. But you accept yourself with grace to get to the point of, this is what I commit to. I commit to the change. I commit to betterment. For my own trauma, I traumatized my kids from spanking them, recognizing the hurt and seeing the handprint.
Been there.
I think also what's important to remember is trauma is relative. So somebody might be like, well, that's all you got was spanking? It's not comparison. Like, hard is hard. So you're going through your hard, and you're going through your hard, and I'm going my hard. It's not harder than your hard, and it's not harder than your hard. Hard is hard, and trauma is relative. And it matters that it's taken in context.
Someone who drowns in 7 feet of water is no different than someone who drowns in 20 feet of water. Drowning is drowning.
I had a moment with my oldest son when he was, I want to say 8 or 9 years old. And we were having some problems with him listening. Don't touch the kitty litter, but it was bigger. Like, he's just not listening at all, not going to bed. And I found myself raising my voice and getting really frustrated with him. And then I found a few moments later him raising his voice and getting frustrated with me. And what I heard was my own voice. I heard my voice, almost identical tone, identical sound, and instantly I felt overwhelming shame. Like, is that really what's happening? Am I really passing down this anger and this shame into my own son? And now I've got to, what have I done? So that kind of triggered for me a little bit of a self-awareness awakening, which is already on the path, but it's a long path, and it's a lot of trial and error. But I didn't want to hear my voice in him anymore. I wanted to move beyond that. So I started asking myself, what do I do with this anger? And I started talking to my higher power, like, God, take my anger away. And that wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. But I'm so glad you're bringing that up.
And when I was getting back instead, I little road signs, little signals from the universe saying, don't ask him to take it away. Ask him to help you change it. Ask him to help you transmute it into something else. And that's where this pause started in my mind, like, what do I really want to have happen? So before I react, I asked myself, what do I want to have happen? And that would stimulate a bunch of follow-up questions in my mind. I don't want this, I don't want that, but I do want this. And that gave me the space to stay in a logical part of my brain.
Right.
That question right there is, what do you really want in any situation, is extremely effective. What do you really want here? Do you really want to connect with your kids? Do you really want to discipline? Do you really want to spank them? Is crying really what you want here? And when you can say back, ooh, yeah, that feels icky. Okay, what do you want? And there you go. You can discipline your kids and not have to spank them. What?
And if to follow with that, who do I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of relationships do I want to have? Do I want relationships with these kids that last 18 years, shorter? Or it's over at that point? Why do I put so much investment energy into bringing a child into the world that I'm just trying to get rid of? Or I'm not willing to change?
It's $1 million investment, each one. That's what, so if we're going to look at that way, how would you treat, would you spank your $1 million investment? Probably not.
You know, in societally, at least in the United States, we have this parenting style that's very reflective of what we've been given. And then it's also very reflective of, let's get them out of the house. Let's make sure they launch, they go have their own lives, they go do their own thing. Is that necessarily what we really, really want? Because a lot of times when that's the message you send your children from a very young age, by the time they hit those older 17, 18, 19 years old, they don't want to come over. They don't want to bring their grandbabies over. They've been told their whole lives that they're supposed to get ready and get out.
Also, they want to be gone way before they're 18. Okay. So if they want to be gone from like 12 on, then they're not there anyway, and you're not getting the benefit of having them in. So even if you are like, hey, at 18, you're out, like, love you, but see you. If you like are fostering that from the kind of get that energy over time, they don't want to be there anyway, and they're going to let you know they don't want to be there. And you're like, you what? I put a roof over. And then you have that relationship that you don't want, right in front of your face. Interesting how this has gone, dude.
We have to ask ourselves, like, societally, is this what we want from the societal level? Are there other societies that are doing it better? Is the South American way, the Asian way, these other countries' way, is it better where they're taking care of the elders, they're connecting, and they're having family parties every Sunday, and everyone's welcome, and the younger generation takes care of the older generation? And as I start to talk to my core, I love my children so much. I want them to succeed, but I want them to also be part of my life post high school, post junior high, or I don't want them checking out early. I want them to know they can always come and be in my life, and I want to be in theirs. So that's kind of reset my value system, and I've tried to realign how do I manage my emotions around them so that they want to come to me in the hard conversations, that they want to be in my life going forward.
So how does emotion training happen in your household? So have you already started, I know you've got kids from teenager on back. So are you like, oh, it looks like you're feeling sadness. You want to tell me about that? Or it looks like you're feeling frustration,
So on the basis, they call that emotional intelligence, is that a lot of children, especially raised in the family dynamics we're talking about, they have very limited spectrum of understanding their own emotions. And if you're a brick wall, all they're going to know is brick wall emotions. So yes, we've practiced getting to eye level, getting down, hearing them, trying not to react, trying not to go to anger or the frustrating emotions that are common and easy, instead of what can we learn from this? What is my child's emotions saying? What are their needs being that they're saying? I need these needs met. More recently, I've taken a page from your book, Shay, and I've been practicing the practice of my time, which I think is very relevant to discuss as well.
So for those of you who are listening, my time is where you do for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever your kid wants to do. Pokemon, playing video games, do a walk, jump on the trampoline. It doesn't matter. It's not your time. It's their time.
So just that simple practice, I find that some of my children that are better at asking for their needs, they're still getting their needs met. Mm-hmm. Some of my children that are not as good as getting their needs met, they're now getting their needs met. And they'll come up and say, Dad, I love you. Dad, you're just such a good dad. Out of nowhere. Like, whoa. Well, when I've been on my phone working all night and ignoring you, essentially, I'm not getting the I love yous or the genuine I want to spend time with you. So it's already paid a lot of dividends in just a short couple of months, in addition to being emotionally intelligent with my children.
Do you know what I got today? I was going out so part of our breaks from school is jump on the trampoline, because it's been a mild winter here, so trampolines are still up. And there's these two ladies out there talking to my kids, and they just yell, these are your kids, huh? So you like to jump on the trampoline, is that right? Wow, that's so great. And I'm like, oh, my kids are bragging that I'm the dad that jumps on the trampoline. That score. Like that is the dividends that my time investment pays.
It's huge.
Huge. So I have a question for you. Zakat, do you want to develop a relationship with your parents? With your dad, I guess?
I do. It's a little difficult because he is still drinking. He has been drinking for the majority of my life, which causes him to emotionally disconnect. I'm not sure who I'm going to be engaging with, whether it's going to be genuine, disgenuine, just putting on a show.
And it has nothing to do with you?
Right. It's been a couple years since I've spoken to him, and I presented him his first grandbaby. He held him for maybe 30 seconds, and then took Zeka, is my son's name, took Zeka over to my stepmom and passed baby Zeka off. So
it's hard.
I think part of the emotional regulation too is recognizing that let him be who he needs to be right now, your dad, so you can be who you are. And you talked about that radical acceptance. When you talk about emotional regulation, if you can accept what is, I am feeling, wow, how did that make me feel when he did that? Okay, it's not all about me. So he's going through his thing, and and then you can start choosing how you want those emotions to be in you, because that experience can go both ways. How dare he? It's this and that and the other, or you can say like, okay, he's at where he's at, and 30 seconds is better than no seconds.
Right.
So,
and it's okay to feel the hurt. And I think if you're like me, that's easy to go back to anger, and we can start talking about, well, what a SOB. Like, why would you do that? And I've had plenty of those moments, and that kind of it can come it's toxic if it stays in you too long, but it's also fuel to like stay resentful and to stay frustrated and to stay away and to justify just not feeling good with people. Whether it's your dad or someone else that's burned you. At least in my life, that's how I've experienced it. And when I take it back to myself, if I'm going to feel that way, I'm going to let it be felt for a while. Then I'm going to continue to work on me and let it go. Because all that energy I'm taking on from them is just weighing me down, and it's ruining my potential to be enjoying the relationships over here. If I come home from work and I'm carrying all the work stress from something that happened, and my little daughter comes up to me and she wants my attention, and I'm like, why does she deserve that?
Right.
Like, she deserves more of me, and I deserve more of me too. So just kind of taking that inward of what I really want. Who am I? What kind of person do I want to be? What way do I want to live my whole life? Not the next 6-7 years, but my whole life. What way do I want to be?
So here's a question for you, the clinician. If I were to make the statement that emotions are unconditional, if I want to feel joy today, it has nothing to do with anything but that I choose it, what would you say to that statement? Or sadness or anger?
I feel like that's the place to get to. We're not necessarily going to be there now. And it depends on day to day. Some days we feel really off balance and we feel out of harmony, and we can't be there. But I think there's an absolute truth. My success, my happiness needs to be unconditional. It can't be dependent on another person and how they treat me. If they decide to treat me poorly, that's sad. And I can feel sad. That may hurt me. I may feel anger. I may feel whatever that comes up. However, at the end of the day, let's just say a 24-hour wallow period, if I need that long, I've got to go back to me and let it go. Or else it just becomes toxic and deteriorates all the other relationships in my life that are really, really more important. I think we should segue a little bit into understanding what will happen if we continue to hold emotions in our body and not really understand them and listen to them and hear what they're trying to tell us. Do you mind digging into that a little bit, Shay? I know you brought up the head and the body connection and how that holds in you.
So when you talk about psychosomatics, that's where your thoughts and feelings, how they manifest in your body, and how you decide that, I'm going to feel this way, or I'm going to allow somebody to make me feel this way. Those are, at the heart of them, choices. And whether you decide to let an emotion stick in you or stick with you or become you ends up becoming a practice. Our bodies, and this is not me just making stuff up, right? Harvard research, when you look at what we're seeing in the brain and how it responds when you are hurting or when you are failing to heal in a certain area, your body holds on to that emotions. So if I were to say to you, Zcat, is the anger in your bones? You'll be like, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Because anger that's transferred from that dynamic, it's in your bones. It's there. And anybody who that resonates with, or the shame, or the self-loathing, or the contempt, or the disgust is another great one. That's going to hold a lot in your face. How you look and see yourself in the mirror. So it's not so much that that's debatable, that is or isn't. I think where it comes is becoming aware that the emotions are there to give you feedback on what is going on. So here's an example. I've got a client, and when they've got an inflammatory disease, it's kind of manifesting. And when that comes up is in these interactions with their loved one who is not getting the help that they need. Turns out loved one also has an inflammatory disease. And when you talk about inflammation there, and I just look at her shoulders roll in, her breath gets really shallow, and she just gets tense. Even as I'm telling you can feel that tension comes in. So your cells aren't getting the oxygen they need. You're holding on that you're becoming then that feeling of someone else. And then your body has to respond. Our bodies love us enough to respond to what you tell them to respond to. So if you're going to hold on to emotion, if they're not happy, then I can't be happy. Your body's going to be okay, well, I guess we won't be happy. So let's generate the chemistry that makes unhappiness. and then it's in your body. And if you're not like, somehow as a cat, I imagine you've gotten some way to like let that anger that's not yours go. Same with you, Jared. You found some way, and there's lots of ways to do it. The most clear, like specific go-to way would be walking. Walking would be the way to like allow that to come out, and you just need to walk. It doesn't have to look like anything or be anything, just walk. And if you can then allow your walk to like feel whatever it is, anger, frustration, sadness, grief, by the end, your body's like, okay, I got some of that out. My blood comes down, and then you get to, it creates this like space where then you can decide how you want to interpret that. And when you allow yourself to create a space, like, what do I want? What's the meaning I want to give this? Your body will respond. So if you give it a meaning that's like, hey, you know what, maybe they're in a really bad place, or you start assuming good intent, guess what your body does? It wakes up. It's alive. It's not carrying that, so it can be present for them to be healthy. But if you're going to say like, well, I can't believe them, they're just awful, they don't get it, they don't understand, then you're like holding on to it, and your body's gonna be like, okay, I guess we got to go be unhealthy and not get there.
That definitely resonates with a couple of relationships in my life. My dad, I understand he comes from his own trauma, don't we all? And the way that we process it is not a straight path, and it's not a time limit on it. If you're still engaged in an unhealthy relationship that you're not willing to let go of, then you are chronically manifesting dis-ease in mental, in physical addictions. And presently, I'm not in any place to tap into that. As I heal myself, I recognize I'm not willing to go there just yet. Tried a couple years earlier, and I do see the potential. I see my dad tapping back into pre-Barb, is what I call it, pre-stepmom. He was a lot of fun. He was alive, throwing us over the rope at the pool, totally engaged. So I do recognize where the alcohol stripped a lot of his energy from him. With more present relationships, it's kind of the same approach of I'm healing myself, and maybe my example will transcend. None of my business, but I'm doing it for me, and I know that my example has resounding effects on people who I don't even know are watching.
Now that's the truth. And that's how you take that pain and turn it into a purpose, and that suffering into a story that like lets other people know I can be bigger than what is. My future can be bigger than my past. And I think, Jared, we're going to go there, so I'm just going to go there. Your emotions, they start with a story in your head. So an event happens, then an emotion comes up, and the emotion is going to be based on like a belief system, a thinking process, or a way of a perspective of seeing the world. And then it's going to generate emotion, and then you're going to go to like an action or like reaffirm that belief, and then there's the event. And if you can't stop and be like, what is the belief that's causing this, or what am I seeing? What's my perspective or perception? And I think that's why the science behind a growth mindset has become so essential. Is if your mindset is to grow and learn and grow and learn and grow from this, then you can step out of that cycle, that loop of repeating that. And if you want your life to keep on being predictable, it will look like the past. And the only way you start changing those emotions and changing those with beliefs or different perspectives or thinking, ways of being and thinking, is allow your life future to be a little bit unpredictable or surprise. You talk about synchronicities too. Like the synchronicities and the surprise will tell you you're on the right path. Mm-hmm. And I know you're going to go here too, so I'm going to go there real quick. Mm-hmm. Eating right, sleeping well, napping, doing some type of physical activity on a very regular, if not daily basis, thinking, like having feelings of awe or
curiosity,
or acceptance or allowance. Oh, the mountains are bigger than I am. There's something bigger than I am. Any type of something along those, feeling those things, and especially if you're going to like throw meditation or prayer in there. Now that's how you can create a body that can generate emotions that are really good for you and those around you more readily or more easily.
My wife and I went to Hawaii for the last 10 days.
Boom. Good job.
It was really challenging just to get ready to go. We had to do a lot of prep work, a lot of double time at the office, a lot of high stress just to get there. And then, we get there and it takes a day or two to wind down into more of a relaxing state of just, okay, I can let go of work, I can let go of my worries, let go of these things. And, start settling into that routine. I felt better. My throat felt better, which I have chronic dry throat and I have digestive issues. My stomach felt better for the most part. Then coming towards the end of the trip, last 2 or 3 days, my stomach starts to flame up. I start to feel tighter. I start thinking about all the worries that I'm going to come back to. And just the flight home, I had so much anxiety and so much like heaviness, and my body felt tight and I felt sick, and my digestive tract was not doing well.
Well, that's to teach you to go on vacations. Don't do that again.
So I realized like I bundled a lot of all right, I'm going to relax someday. And that someday was this vacation. I put it all off and I kind of crammed it all in there, and it felt really good for the middle part of the trip. Felt really crummy in the beginning, really crummy in the end. Now, my wife, for example, she at home has a lot of stress, and raising the family is really hard, and she doesn't sleep very well. She wakes up with nightmares and thinking about kids and stuff that's always bad. None of that happened on the trip. Like, she slept like a baby.
Wow.
She was so relaxed, so chill. And then the 2 nights that we've been home, she can't sleep. She's having bad dreams. She's waking up. She's super tense. She's feeling sick. And it's like, wow, like what a shift that is. Like just a little micro example of self-awareness, so much different in just that little time. So for me, I'm like, I need to be more of the daily routine person. I need to get back into healthy routine, sleep, eat, meditate, walk, jog, whatever that is. I can't be a stuffer anymore. Stuffing it is just, it doesn't work. Like that overwhelm is just too much.
You need a daily vacation.
Daily vacation would be excellent. And why not? Why can't we enjoy every day? Why can't we take that time to reflect and find that space?
So in my life, one of the philosophies that has just totally changed everything about me is, so for example, meditation, it's a place you go, it's not a thing you do. My yoga practice, it's a place you go, it's not a thing you do. My intimate sex life, it's a place you go, it's not a thing you do. And the more I've practiced it's a place you go, not a thing you do, less outcome driven, way more present, and way more into like, oh, what's the feeling I want to have? Like, you're right, why can't Hawaii come to me? And the more you like visualize and be it, like experiences or feelings like that, they have to come to you. I love that. That's a great, powerful example, Jared.
I think we need to give some credit to the research here. There's 2 really powerful resources that I would recommend to anyone who's listening. One is a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. It really breaks down this body connection of how the feelings deteriorate us, and like Z-Cat said, brings disease into our life. And another one is Lois Hayes in all of her books. She has basically a scoring system book that's just like a dictionary. Like you say you've got a headache, you go to the page that says headache.
I love it. Yes.
Have you read this? Have you seen this?
I have seen subjects on the matter. So I do say, I wonder why my throat is itching me. I got to look up the metaphysical meaning behind it. What energy am I holding on to there?
And she's broken it down by pretty much everything. And then, underneath it all, she'll have an affirmation. You can manifest a healing property to recover that part of your body. So then she'll take it a little further and say, all right, now you're going to manifest this. You're going to repeat it, and you're going to tap your body. So whatever part of your body that is struggling, you'll tap it and tell that part of your body, hey, I love you. You're good enough. Your voice matters. Who you are is important. And all those counter messages that were ingrained in us from whatever crap happened to us.
Or whatever we're focused or listening or allowing in our life now.
Exactly.
I mean, I can tell you I love you all day long, but if you're not willing to hear it, it doesn't matter. All you heard is, wow, he was trying to be nice or something, and you can, it doesn't land.
So if you want a practical practice, you can take the messages, the negative ones you're hearing, write them down, flip them around. All right, if I hear I'm not a good dad, I'm going to write, I am willing to be a good dad. And I love myself.
And can I just put in there, you just have to want to want. That's it. You don't have to I'm going to be a great guy. No, I just want to, I want to believe that I'm a good guy. Back up until it feels like, okay, I can do that.
And then take that practice to the mirror. Go look in the mirror. Talk to yourself out loud. The more you vocalize it, the more your body hears it.
I remember the exact moment doing that practice, I had the breakthrough. And those are powerful things. If you can go and say like, oh, hey, you in the mirror, I kind of like you, and really meet like all the way through your body, huge. But it's a practice. I had to go in the mirror for a long time, like, ooh, I do not like you. But the more I was willing to practice and go there, you can change your whole chemistry and the way you see it.
And if you're willing to chip away at those little critiques you give yourself, oh, I got a little fat here, I got a mole here, or whatever it is, I love that part of me. I'm grateful for you. I earned that fat. I earned that scar. I
actually do love tacos. Like, yeah, own it.
And, I've been through a lot. I deserve to feel good about me, even when I don't necessarily love some feature.
Yeah. Or when I look at somebody that I want to look like, even though they're not my body type, and, want to be like them, but I'm not willing to do the work. Okay. No, yeah, I don't want to do the work for that.
Susie Katz, what skills are you finding that are helping you regulate?
It starts with dialectical behavioral therapy, what we're saying inside of our heads. It does manifest. We are co-creators of our own reality. What you think is what you get. Attitude is the forerunner of conditions. If you're waking up expecting today to be like yesterday, then you're going to get that, because that's what you're looking for. That's where your sight and your focus is aimed. So I do pay attention to my thoughts. Stemming from the mirror, oh, I have some acne. Well, I did just eat about a gallon of ice cream. So that makes a little bit of sense.
And it was delicious. So welcome, friends. Let's go enjoy the data together.
Right? Throw a little peanut butter
Come
in there
join me where I go. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe we'll stem to some coconut milk instead of lactose. It causes you to be very honest and real with yourself, because there are parts about ourselves that we don't like. But what's it stemming from?
And why go to the shame?
Exactly. Why go to the shame? There's guilt there. Yes, I did eat that ice cream, and I can do better, and I want to do better because I see these parts of me. And you know what? I have the power to do it. I have the drive behind it. I want to. I recognize that strength within me. You know what you want. How are we going to get there?
I think that's probably one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've had too, is want what you want. And the more, so when you talk about emotional regulation, if you can just keep on focusing on the feeling you want to feel, period, no matter what's going on, then you will be able to continue to like hone in on it. And then when somebody's trying to get you off track about how you want to be, you're like, no, I'm doing rockstar today. I'm doing awesome. I'm being alive in my life. Okay. And then that you're for me, it's breath, right? I'm like, and then breathe it out or breathe it in. Because one comment I want to make in our discussion is you can't have Bane without Batman. So when people you cannot say I don't want to be angry, an angry person. You have you have to have that anger. There's times and places it is necessary. So you don't want to be Batman all the time. You don't want to be Bane all the time, but I cannot be Batman without Bane. And I need my Bane sometimes. So I really appreciate that you're saying it's not good or bad. It just is. And you need those emotions at some times in your life.
And even going back to the food piece. So you ate some ice cream, I eat ice cream, eat hamburgers. I know that they're not the best things for me. But when we put it into perspective, can I appreciate every bite? Can I mindfully chew? I know just slowing down my chewing every bite of a hamburger 20 times.
Thanks, Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah, he deserves the credit for that. But it does change something in my mind, in my body. I'm like, why am I driven to eat this today? What's going on? What's the systemic stem here?
I'm a totally angry eater and a bored eater. Totally.
And I get that way. I'm super stressed. Ice cream and hamburgers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Bam.
Emotions, man. Just eat them.
But if I am going to do it, I'm going to do it thoughtfully and carefully. And what I find is I'll eat less. I'll pre-digest a lot of the food in my mouth.
Smile more while you're eating it.
And I'll probably get a little grossed out by the end of it because it's too much.
Yeah.
And the next time when I go to eat that way, I'm going to think a little more before my decision. And I'm going to attract those foods that are a little more lined up with how I want to feel. That salad, those other healthier foods, they're going to be more in touch with how I want to feel instead of how I am feeling.
Yeah, or like you said, just less. Maybe it's fine, just less. And now you split the burger with somebody else or whatever.
All things in moderation to include moderation itself.
Well played.
Thank you. That's the ice cream talking.
Mm-hmm. So there's an acronym that I wanted to touch on called HALT-B. Have you heard this one?
All right, children of the corn that you're listening, you're not out of this either. This is for everybody.
So if you look at this acronym, a lot of us struggle with this acronym when we're feeling hungry, it's already learned hangry as a spin-off of that, right? Mm-hmm. Angry, lonely, tired, and bored. Anytime one of those emotions come up, we tend to dysregulate. We struggle with our emotional, wherever we're at.
Especially those listening with your brain type, if it's ADD or ADHD susceptible, you are more prone to not like be aware of this until it's too late. So that's not a put down or anything. There's plenty of research on how to like be aware of it. But if that's kind of the way your brain operates, you're more susceptible to these than other brain types.
Going back to societal situations and issues of the day, a lot of people these days don't learn how to be bored. There's so many distractions. There's so many quick fixes, whether that's social media, TV, whatever it is, that people never let themselves be bored. Well, a lot of creativity and genius comes from your boredom and getting ideas and having fun and let's do something different. Let's go outside. Let's experience this world. So learning to look at all these things as, all right, even boredom is good.
And boredom's a choice, by the way.
Being hungry is okay. You can think about your hunger. You can feel it. You can sacrifice during your hunger. One way I've reframed hunger is if I feel hungry and I want to care about someone today, I can turn that into a prayer. I can say, I want to give my hunger over to so-and-so who's struggling and let my higher power transmute my hunger into helping someone.
Absolutely.
Real quick, those of you that get your dictionary out, transmute is an essential word to a happy, healthy life. Transmute means that you're taking an energy type or emotion and transforming it into another type or emotion that you want, that moves you more forward, is more progressive for you.
And when we go back to working on not being the angry dad, not being the one that I hear my kid's voice, that was really the magic sauce. As I started to take those things I was struggling with, asking my higher power, help me transmute this into something better. Help me learn to do different. And all that stuff that was kind of gooking me up became fluid, and that can now support and give back to my family and to my children. And I have more patience, more ability to get eye level, to do my time, to think about them over myself and stop being so stuck. What's coming up for you, Z-Cats?
Z-Cats.
So my kids are only 1 and 2, and emotions are big. They are explosive when we haven't had a nap, when we haven't been eating right.
You're using the royal we there, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I nap with them, or I try to.
Okay. Just so we were clear, we're talking. I know when you're saying we, but you're talking about you.
Yeah. It's interesting because there's only so many words that they know to communicate how they're feeling, what's going on. All right, sister took your toy. Well, we don't hit sister. I was a bad example of that, and that quickly transcended, right? So we are in split time with the time that I have with them and the time that they spend with their father. Majority of the time is with their father. I don't know who's watching them. He won't tell me who's babysitting them or watching them during the week while he's at work.
It's hard. Wow.
My daughter has bad diaper rash, and my son went from pooping on the toilet to now he doesn't want to. That leads to other emotions in and of itself. You're holding on to a poop. What are you eating? Can the poop even come out? So I soak up the time that I have with them to breathe. We do practice mindful breaths. When I see I'm getting amped up because they both want my attention, they haven't seen me in 2 months. Now mom has changed for the better. She has more patience. How much patience does she have?
Let's find out. Let's do it together,
sis. Patience to get more patience.
Oh yeah, let's both talk to her at once.
She went to 5 minutes last time. Let's do 6.
The whole day. It's great though, because I get the opportunity to convey, all right, Bubba, Willow wants my attention right now. Let me give her the attention, and then I promise I'll come back to you and hear what you have to say. If you're still in the same room, if you haven't gone on to a new toy or something, So there's a lot of responsibility that comes with regulating your own emotions because it quickly transcends onto our kids. choosing to feed yourself the right stuff first so you can have the proper fuel to handle the situation from the vantage point that you want to be at. And then you feel good, and your kids can pick up that you're feeling good, you're feeling stable, you have the energy, and they eat it up like it is food.
It is.
Right.
It literally is.
It's vibrations. If you're yelling at them, they're getting amped up. You're shaking their cells with your vibrations.
And they all respond differently.
Absolutely.
Some take that really hard, where others may not as much.
Right? Some shut down, some react. My daughter and my son are totally different. My son is rambunctious, has all this energy, and my daughter is calm. She'll tuck her little baby doll into bed, singing, get the music going, wants to start moving, just like me.
This is the first time we've had you on. Can I notice you for something? So you're going to tell me if I'm wrong.
Tell me.
But I want to notice you for transmuting the rage you feel about the unknown that would have been so easy to consume your time at X or at, Dad, and then totally undermine the time you have with your kids, to now your focus is on them and what you can do and what you can control and how you can influence them and not what you can't. Is that true?
Absolutely.
I'm going to notice you for that. That's gargantuan.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Time is precious. And when you tap into the moment is expansive. I was laying there putting them to bed. My daughter passes out after they wrestle and jump and go crazy for a little bit. We're in a different environment. I'm in a different environment. We're laying down in bed, and finally Willow passes out. I'm sleeping between them. I got her on my left side. Bubba's on my right side. And so I turned to Bubba, and I'm trying to get him to calm down. I'm calm. I'm kind of falling asleep a little bit, but he's awake. Not going to leave him awake, little 2-year-old. So I'm rubbing his back, rubbing his hair, thinking, well, maybe this is stimulating. I'll stop. We'll just hang out and lay. And so I put my arm over him, and his little 2-year-old hand starts rubbing my arm and soothing me. And that's when I tapped into the power of his brain. He recognizes how he feels good, and he wants to display that same love back to me because that's how we communicate. And I look at him and I ask him, you're a good boy. You're important and you're powerful. And he smiles and he's like, yeah, of course. He nods, yes. Like, of course you do. This is amazing. Thank you.
And when he says and nods, you're a good mom, what do you say?
I say, absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely. We're having fun. Let's
Mom's
party.
changed.
Yes. Mom has ascended.
So another, if you're looking for resources, Dr. Amen's book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, is a game changer where he's extremely good at helping identify the different types of brains and how yours lines up. And he's extremely good at the RXs. So his main emphasis is kind of how you can supplement, not necessarily go to medications, but he also talks about that. So he talks about some supplementations. And one of the things that he points out, and if you're really struggling with emotional regulation, from the book of Being Beethoven, the research has found that toning is extremely useful. When I say toning, what I mean is A, E, A, O, U, and especially A or Om. So that practice of just for less than up to 5 minutes of just Om and doing some kind of tone has profound scientific research effects on regulating emotion. So when we talk about what to do, can you do? How can you get present? I know it's all yogi and all that stuff, but if you want to be healthy, you're willing to do whatever it takes. So if it means you go in the bathroom, you go, and look at your face in the mirror and laugh, and you see what happens to your emotion, and then you'll know.
You know what's interesting on that? I went to a yoga class a few weeks ago, and at the end of the class, the instructor had us get in this lion pose and do lion's breath. Mm-hmm. And I'd never done it before. You're basically going,
with your tongue out?
With your tongue out. And you got to do it loud and really feel it. And I could feel all the leftover stress and strain I was feeling just kind of leave. It was playful. It was fun. But it was just we got to let things out. We got to connect with those better frequencies. That's just what that reminded me of.
So he puts out the research, if you're challenge is letting your voice be heard. So a lot of times when we're learning up emotions, if I'm emotional, like you were talking about, ooh, you are not allowed to, show that. Crying, not okay. And so you feel like you can't be you or can't share that. That particular activity helps you own your voice. So when it comes to that emotional high peak experience, that you're not going to the language you cuss in and just being angry. You're like, oh, I want to tell you, what you're doing really makes me upset and I really don't like it. I need to take a walk for a minute before I come back so we can solve problems. Well, Mr. Clinician, how do you feel about the ground we've covered?
I feel really good.
We've covered what are emotions. We've looked at why they're important, how they affect our lives and impact. I'm curious that we decided to, or that we optioned to go and talk about the family dynamic and emotions and kind of where that is. And hopefully the takeaway is there that those of you that are parents or, have family connections in any way, it's really, really important that you practice or create like opportunities to practice that in those environments. And it doesn't matter. The goal is not to like get the other person to be a certain way. The whole goal and all this is to get you to practice being you. That's it. And deciding to show up and being healthier, happier, more connected, more joyful, or like, actually I'm gonna throw happy out there, actually more whole, like more all you. Jared, I've become way more a fan of feeling whole than happy. Happy's not even on my radar anymore. I want to feel whole.
We're talking systemic change. And when you want to change, if you focus on the whole side of things, you're fixing all the cogs, the links, the pieces that aren't functioning throughout the rest of your life, which creates more happy.
Well, it's about abundance right there. So when I want to feel whole, I want to feel all my emotions. I want abundance. So I want it all, which means I can't self-select it because, especially if you're self-selecting with drugs or alcohol, it doesn't work. It's all or nothing.
And interestingly, along with this comment, my pediatrician was telling me the other day, I've stopped talking to kids about happy.
Love it.
I've started talking about being kind and doing good. And if you live that way, just being kind and doing good, you're going to find more happy.
And joy and satisfaction and fulfillment and all the other variety of emotions that come along with that. And then we talked about some what's, special thank you and gratitude to Zakat for joining us today on the spot, like on the fly.
Thank you. This is the cold water. I love it.
Is there anything we missed that you feel like needs to be said?
The one thing I would touch on is the tie-dye of emotions. Being able and honoring the fact that you feel happy and sad, that you feel grief.
Courage and fear.
Exactly. Cold water. But you're feeling it. It's just feelings.
And, you said that several times. And Jared, we had an event while you were gone. I don't know if you heard or not.
I heard.
About
I saw some of it.
Cold water happening. And we gave the people, we talked about how cold water is so effective, especially in emotional regulation. I think looking back, taking cold showers and doing cold work has been the most valuable thing I've done to regulate emotions.
You choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Yep. And it's not for everybody, obviously, but if you listen to your inner wisdom and some of this podcast and share it with another, you will find some of the things that do work for you. And that's what it's all about. Okay. Final thoughts, Jared?
Just really grateful.
Life's a beach, Casey.
And I'm super, super appreciative of you just jumping in on the spot. Didn't even give her any notice. Come on in. And she just jumps on in right into the cold water of this podcast. And you knocked it out of the park. Thank you so much.
Amen.
Thank
well
you
said.
for the opportunity.
You're welcome. And thanks to I Am Recovery for sponsoring this podcast and creating a space and a place and a workshop, a place to do work and find out how to live a life worth living and do it with people who are doing it and connect. Call them at 801-407-9998 or find them on the web at IMRTC. Where else, Jared? Where else can people find I Am Recovery?
Facebook, Instagram. We've got, we're in the social media systems. Our podcast you can find on pretty much everything now. We've added Amazon, as you can ask Amazon Alexa to play you and start listening to the podcast on there as well.
The Winning Together podcast, all one word. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Attract, visualize having an excellent, most awesome day, and we'll do the same. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.